Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Fertility Confidence Podcast and welcome, Sonia. Thanks for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
I am super excited and I'm so glad you said that you love talking about this because I think I'm really excited to I love hearing people's takes on like the other side of the fertility journey that's not just the physical body, because I think we get really inundated with like physical body information that we also sometimes forget about the emotional side of things and the mental health piece of it. But before we get into all of that, Sonia, why don't you just let us know who you are?
Thank you. So, I'm a fertility coach based in LA, even though all my work is online. I'm known for the Fertility Solution, which is my 4-month online program designed to boost fertility in 4 months and transform everybody by bringing you to what we call homeostasis, which is the state in which all your body functions work optimally. And that's when we see miracles happen. And my clients get pregnant at 4 months, 4 to 6 months.
Oh, that's so exciting. What got you started in this space?
I always say, sometimes you find things and sometimes things find you. So I
Yeah.
think fertility found me. That's one of
Mhm.
these cases. So I've had many different careers, from marketing manager in big corporations to yoga teacher to I used to own an online yoga platform. So I've had very different projects throughout my career. And at some point, I lived in Boston and I had an online yoga platform, and I also was a private teacher. And one of my clients called me. She had moved back. She had been relocated back to India. She was originally from India. And she called me and she said, "Hey, my doctor says I won't be able to be a mom. I'm devastated."
Mhm.
And I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so heartbroken for you." And she said, I need you to help me." And I was like, "But I know nothing about fertility." And she said, "You're the only person I can go to. You're the only person I trust." And those words changed my life.
I bet.
So I started researching. I teamed up with my mother, who's a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner in Spain. We teamed up with some of her colleagues as well. And we created the first version of the fertility solution for a friend.
Mhm.
So her labs improved so much that her OBGYN started referring people my way. And the rest is history. She got pregnant. She has a teenager now, so she has other problems. And then I started doing both. So at that time, I had an online yoga platform, and I was an informal, non-certified, know nothing fertility coach on the side. This was 15 years ago.
Mhm.
Then by now, obviously, I got certified. I did all my certificates, and more than 1,000 patients later, we're here today.
Yeah, that's so amazing. I had an inkling of what I wanted to do, like coming out of school, but I had this, funny enough, like what we're going to talk about today in terms of limiting beliefs. I had this like really strong limiting belief that other people were doing that it wasn't the right path for me. And in my first 6 months of practice, I was like, I'm just going to focus on women's health and like see what happens. And it was just like fertility case after fertility case after fertility case, and being able to actually help these people. And before I was finally like, okay, herd universe, this is something we need to focus more on, and I need to do more learning and more research. And yeah, sometimes it just kind of finds you a little bit too, which is so fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting how you arrive somewhere and then why you stay. And I feel,
Hmm.
obviously, I stayed because my success rate was high, but also because I felt a very strong need to counteract the fertility clinic narrative.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. Or even just that there's other options out there, like
Exactly.
whether you need the clinic as well or not, that
Yeah.
there's a whole bunch of routes that you can
Exactly.
take to get to the same end goal. And yeah, I totally agree. And sort of our traditional model of medicine, it's like you ask your GP for help. They don't really know what to do. You see the OBGYN, they maybe dabble in a few things, and then they'll eventually refer you over there. And that might be the route you need to take, but there's all these other offshoots to kind of hopefully stall the process or have it work quicker, better, more efficiently, that we're just not having enough conversations about.
Exactly.
And one of those things I think I really believe, and I think we share this belief, is that it's not just about the physical body, but there is a
Absolutely.
lot that comes into play when we can bring in the mental, emotional piece of that as well. And did this like initial case that sort of started things for you, do you feel like that held true, that there was a lot of that mental, emotional aspect worked into her treatment plan?
Yes, I think that she was an example of somebody who needed a holistic approach.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then afterwards, I had some cases where it's been incredible to see. Like on paper, the physical side was covered to the T, but not the emotional, not the mental, not the energetic, and not the spiritual. And I have so many cases where only when we address those and we address them well, only when we heal trauma, only when we process things well, then we unblock what's needed for these women to get pregnant. So many
Yeah.
cases.
And I can't imagine with like that first client, for example, her being told like this isn't ever going to happen for you. That immediately is going to throw up this energetic wall and this block right away, right? Because now we have that seed of doubt planted. And I hear
Exactly.
this from clients all the time. And now we have to like hurdle over that wall.
It's incredible. When I said earlier, counteract the fertility clinic narrative, that's the part that I was referring to. So
Mhm.
most women come to me very disempowered,
Right.
having been told it's not going to happen. If it ever happens, it's going to be through IVF and or donor eggs, and it's probably not going to happen anyway. So that it's not going to happen is very, very deeply rooted in their limiting beliefs, and it takes us a while to dismantle that. And I always tell them the first thing I will do with you is infuse you with hormone B, which is hormone belief.
I love that. That's so cute.
Yeah, and that's what we do with a lot of people. Obviously, everyone's different. Everything's very personalized here. But
Mhm.
yeah, most people need hormone B.
Yeah, yeah. Not a lot of like hope often when women come in and are. It's funny too because I would consider us more in that like alternative camp, which I personally don't love that word because I do think that
Yeah,
there is room for everybody and that we should all work very synergistically together. But I do find still, even in 2024, a lot of times people are coming to you and coming to me and going to other alternative care practitioners as like a last ditch effort, right?
exactly.
And at that point, that's when there already are a lot of limiting beliefs and lack of hope and I talk to my clients a lot about how those feelings are valid and I understand why they're there. It's a protective mechanism, right?
Mhm.
Your first thought after a couple of cycles of this not working is I'm just not going to get my hopes up anymore. And then that is continuing to spiral. Do you see that as like a common thread in your practice?
Absolutely. I like that you say it's very common and normal. And I always say to people, it's not your fault. The human mind is not made for us to be happy. The
Mhm.
human mind is made for us to survive.
Right.
So the fact that you have protective mechanisms means your mind works really well.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
a good
why
way to
you're
look
here.
at it.
Like you're good at survival and your ancestors were very good at survival. Now, if you want to be happy, if you want to achieve challenges, if you want to achieve difficult goals, you need to tame your mind to go past survival.
Yeah, that's a
That
really
way,
good way.
we need to go beyond these limiting beliefs.
Right. And what are some really common limiting beliefs that you find come up with clients in the fertility realm?
Along the lines we were saying, in terms of like, I'm not, I'm broken, I'm not going to be able to do it myself, I'm going to need donor eggs. When somebody with the authority of a white coat says that to you, it does have a profound impact. It's not like your friend saying that over coffee. it's an authority. And, I always say, you guys come with tattoos. I call it
Mhm.
tattoos because they are ingrained.
Mhm.
So we need to do a lot of work in terms, like I have a program that's 16 modules, and at least 3 or 4 of them are around that, around
Around
inner
breaking those.
dialogue, limiting beliefs, emotional roller coaster, managing all that at a subconscious, not only consciously, but a subconscious level,
Mhm.
is so, so important.
Yeah, I completely agree. For women who are listening and they're thinking like, okay, yeah, first off, if you are listening and you heard that list of things, like you're not alone if you have those beliefs. I agree. They're very, very common. My body being broken is a really common sentence that I hear with clients, or I don't, what am I doing wrong is another really common sentence that I hear with clients. So if you're in that brain space right now, first and foremost, I think understanding that you're not the only one that's kind of sitting in that. And two, there are ways in which we can help get your brain to have other beliefs, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're not the only one is something that, when we say it, it doesn't mean a lot. But when you
Mm-hmm.
see it with your own eyes, it's such a game changer. That's why we have group sessions in my program, where women support each other. And it's very interesting because at the beginning of the programs, people are shy and people are like, I'm not
Yeah.
sure about the group part. Like,
Yeah.
really? And then they stay because of that. And at the end, when I ask them for feedback or when they share their experience with newcomers, they say, the group sessions were holding me kind of like together week after week. They call it the group hug.
Yeah. I
And
love
it's
that.
therapeutic to share with women who are in the same season in life.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think promoting community is such a huge therapeutic tool that is completely untapped in, and not just in fertility, but in just women's health in general.
Absolutely. Totally.
We all just walk around with our complaints thinking we're the only ones in the world that feel that way, and no one feels like us. And it's really easy, I think, especially as strong, independent women, to just like keep going, thinking I can do it all myself. And the impact that having a space to go where other women know what you're talking about and can actually relate to the feelings that you're having, that alone is better than you taking half of your supplement protocol, probably, because there's
Absolutely.
so many amazing benefits that are coming from you just feeling like you're actually a part of a community.
Exactly. Feeling seen, feeling validated.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of women tell me that, like, sometimes when they share stories about, my sister-in-law announced she's pregnant, and, I know I should be happy, and, they take their time, but they end up saying, I'm jealous.
Right.
And everybody's nodding in the
Mm-hmm.
group sessions, and they're like, oh my God, like they get it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, you bet they get it. Absolutely. It sucks. Like,
Yeah.
let's just call it what it is. And
Yeah.
it's just so refreshing for them to hear, okay, can I say that it sucks? Absolutely. Say it loud. And everyone's like, yep, it
Mhm.
sucks.
Yeah.
It's very, very therapeutic to feel seen and validated.
Yeah. And I think it's really important in this space because it's often really common that you're not feeling seen and validated in the mainstream medical model. You
Mhm.
know, early on in your journey, you're probably just being told to keep trying and come back in a few more months and don't worry about it so much. And it's normal that it's taking so long. And then later on in the journey, you're feeling very much like a number and sort of just on the conveyor belt. And there's no sort of good in between where you're like, hold on a second. What is going on here? Like the process can feel very quick and very disempowering. And that really is where community can come in. And even if you are in the fertility clinic space and you are on that conveyor belt, you can still get that proper support and treatment in other ways. And I really encourage
Exactly.
everyone to find like a community that they feel comfortable in and that they can have that seen and validated feeling given.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Even if you are pursuing IVF, it's definitely worth it to be part of a community and be part of a program that increases your chances, because without proper preparation, IVF rates, success rates are so low, you
Mm-hmm.
know, 20-30% max. So it's definitely worth it to invest a little extra and prepare yourself to make sure that you show up as prepared as possible and really increase your chances to, 70 to 85%.
Hmm. Yeah, I love telling people when they're early-ish in their journey and they're, hesitant about making changes or investing in themselves because they're at that point where people have started mentioning IVF. And so for them, it's like, well, if I'm going to have to do that, that's a really big financial decision. And I think it's really important to note that all of the preparation, all of the things that you are doing to help improve your chances of trying the at-home way are all the same things that are going to get your body ready for IVF. And if that is the route you decide to take or end up needing to take, it's significantly easier to believe in the process if you go in feeling confident that you've done everything within your power to allow that the best possible statistical chance of working versus walking in going, oh my God, my body's still broken. I don't know, like, what have I done wrong? And still harboring not just those limiting beliefs that are swirling, but also some of the maybe not so great habits or nutrition practices that we can make tweaks to that have the research to back them up to actually improve the chances of that being successful.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Showing up, if you're going to have IVF and you're going to put yourself through that process, then prepare yourself the same way as you wouldn't show up to your wedding unprepared.
Right. Totally.
And I also encourage people to, through a program or through books or but prepare yourself for having a baby. Don't just assume, oh, I'll get pregnant when it happens. No, prepare yourself the same way you prepare yourself for your wedding. The more you prepare before getting pregnant, the better pregnancy you will have and the better everything will go. So
Mm-hmm.
prepare yourself in an excited way and don't feel like, oh, I have to do that, but it's more, I get to do that. I get to
Mm-hmm.
nourish my body. I get to prepare my body for my baby. I get to set up myself up for success, for a beautiful pregnancy. I get to.
Yeah. Yeah. And we can have like a whole conversation around how that also improves the health of your children and, the epigenetics of everything as well. So sometimes taking
Love that.
our own selves out of the equation can help just fuel that desire to really figure out what it is your body personally needs.
Yes. For me, when I got pregnant, I mean, I was already in the fertility space and things like that, but I thought it was really, really exciting to prepare myself the same way as
Mhm.
I got excited to prepare for a wedding and things like that. I
Yeah,
thought it was,
absolutely.
it was a great endeavor.
Mhm. For some of our women who are realizing now that they're maybe holding on to some limiting beliefs or some negative self-talk that is kind of infiltrating their journey, what are some ways that they can actually start maybe working through that negative energy?
Okay. I like that. So I work from different angles. So I work at a conscious level. And for that, one of the tools that I use in my programs is the 4 questions and the turnaround by Byron Katie. I don't know
Hmm.
if you're familiar with her work. So
Hmm.
Byron Katie, I mean, if you haven't heard of her, like, she's incredible. She has so many bestsellers. One of them is called Loving What Is. It's a book that I highly recommend for everyone. I love the audio version because it's her voice and she's so soothing and so loving. So Loving What Is a beautiful book. In Loving What Is, she offers a technique. And using that technique, essentially, what you take a thought that's kind of like a negative thought or a limiting belief, you submit that thought through these 4 questions and then a turnaround at the end. And essentially, what happens is that you realize that you tell yourself a lot of lies, and that you hold on to these lies, you make them super big in your head, you snowball with them, and ultimately you are doing such a disservice to yourself because you're choosing to believe a lie, you're making yourself miserable with that lie, and by believing that lie, you're just perpetuating things, and actually you don't know, you're just making it up, kind of.
Yeah.
So that's one of the techniques that we use a lot in my program, and people really like it. So that's more at conscious level, cognitive. And then another technique we use is my clients have post-its through the house. So we work a lot with repetition. So we
Yeah.
read positive self-affirmations every single morning. We have like a whole morning ritual we go through, including hydration, including movement, including setting an intention for the day, including sitting with yourself and things like that. And then we read every single morning positive self affirmations. And not only do we read them, but we spread them through the house. So that way, when I go brush my teeth, or when I go open the refrigerator, or when I go cook, they're all over. And those and those self affirmations through repetition enter your subconscious part of your brain, which is very, very powerful.
I love the post-it note technique personally. And sometimes my family comes over and they're kind of looking at me like, I'm like, just ignore them. They're for me. If you want to
Totally.
enjoy them, by all means, but they're for me. I love them. I have them all. I have I rotate a few, but there's always some on my bathroom mirror. So that whenever we're in the bathroom, so my kids will ask like, "Mommy, what does that say?" Or my son will read it and go, "I don't get it." And I'll explain, I'll explain to him like, well, this is why mommy's reading it. And this is, it's just good things for you to do. And we do affirmations with him in bed before he goes to sleep. But
Beautiful.
it's something that I think it can feel really silly in the beginning, but can actually be really powerful.
Yes. It's interesting because I'm such a science nerd. So for me, even though I'm a certified yoga teacher, meditation, all that, it was one of those things I preach, but I don't really do meditation and reading, I don't know, manifesting, things like that. It was like, yeah, it's kind of nice, but I don't really get to it. And then
Mm-hmm.
I read the book by Joe Dispenza, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. I don't know if you've read that
Yeah,
book.
yeah, I have read.
And
I
I
read
moved,
that a long time ago. I should read it again.
yeah, again, audio version is great. Well, I don't know. I mean, I live in LA. We drive a lot in LA, so audio versions are my love language. Um, but then I listened to that book and I was like, now I get it at a scientific level. Everything
Mhm.
that happens in your brain when you meditate, or everything that happens in your brain when you read every single day the same thing, and you
Mhm.
soak it in and you soak it in and you soak it in, and all the changes that happen, proven, not woo woo,
Yeah,
proven.
yeah.
And that got me completely convinced. Like, I was like, okay, this is it. So I manifest in the morning, I manifest at night. I have post-it notes. My kids do it too. You gave me the chills when you said about yours, because my kids do it too. And, it elevates our quality of life. It elevates what we do. It elevates our conversations. You just go deeper, and, living life with purpose and intention is just so much more beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think in this space, like we know the statistics in the fertility journey are a lot of women, but also men have higher rates of depression and anxiety going
Mhm.
through this journey. And so we could take this entire conversation and start with that and have all of these things, very much go to how do we support with depression and anxiety through this journey. And so I think the post-it note is an awesome idea, and it's something that we also recommend, and I do personally. And what's another like quick tip, quick win people could use if they're kind of feeling like their mental health is taking a toll, taking a hit through this journey, and maybe the limiting belief aspect still feels a bit too like far-fetched for them right now in the headspace that they're
Asking for help, I think asking for help is a sign of strength.
in.
And I
Mhm.
want to still, like, one of my messages out there is that, asking for help, especially in the fertility space, is important because fertility is highly taboo.
Right.
So statistics say that 63% of women who experience fertility challenges never share it with anybody.
Mm-hmm.
So I am on a mission to have women open up with somebody safe, and men. Actually, I'm very, very happy you mentioned men,
Mm-hmm.
because I see couples all the time, and men are still very much suffering in isolation. So I feel we're offering more and more solutions for women. They have their space, they have communities. If you want to, you get help as a woman. But men are still suffering in silence, which is why now we've started doing couple sessions in my programs as well. So men can have a voice, also feel seen, feel validated. All the things we're doing for women, we're doing it for men too. They
Yeah.
really, really need it. And they're so grateful. They give us great, great feedback.
Yeah.
So yeah, we need to open it up for men. Please, both of you,
Yeah.
men and female.
Yeah.
Be brave, ask for help. There's help out there. Find somebody you resonate with, but really don't suffer. Don't isolate yourself in silence, because that's really not helpful.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. We had this conversation in our like team meeting last week where I was saying, it's still like a problem where we're not seeing a lot of not just male fertility advice out there. Like it's out there and we definitely put it out there and talk about it, but also this like mental health aspect and just encouragement. And yes, we're seeing this shift away from infertility being this like top secret thing that a lot of us are going through, and we're seeing more women, especially in mainstream social media and celebrities, and being open to talking about their journey, which I think can be incredibly helpful. But we're still not seeing a lot of men being open, and that door hasn't quite opened for them yet. And so I think just continuing the conversation for them is also
Totally.
so important.
Totally. Yeah. I think it's very important to give men the space, hold space for them to express their true needs. I see a lot of men who are so worried supporting their partner, that totally neglect their own needs. And yesterday, it's funny, last night I had a conversation with a couple and I gave him permission to take care of his needs. And I said, hey, put your oxygen mask first before you put it on her, because if you're not well, you cannot support her. He
Yeah.
was so relieved when I said that. Like I gave him permission, to go play soccer with his friends and to do things, obviously also support her, but also have space for him. He could not believe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
be vocal, both of you, be vocal about what you need. And if you need space to have these conversations with other people, if you need somebody to guide you through these conversations, seek help. I
yeah.
understand, some of these things are highly triggering. So having somebody guide you and navigate these conversations, an expert, we do that a lot in our programs, is very, very helpful.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it can definitely, the fertility journey can bring up a lot of, old pieces in the relationship that can make these
Yeah,
conversations really challenging. And like you said at the beginning, there's really no shame, and it shows strength in asking for help. And yeah, we're often recommending not just therapy personally, but sometimes therapy as a couple is a really great way to help you just navigate what are you feeling and how can we come together and meet in the middle, and yeah, support each other, but also have the capacity and ability to support ourselves is so important.
yeah. We end up doing a lot of couples therapy in my
Yeah.
programs. Totally.
I love that. Sonia, this was a wonderful conversation. How can our listeners find more information about you?
Okay, so I would say number one, Instagram at Sonia Ribas Coach, because there's a lot of free content there. You can also get my free webinar, my free fertility webinar there, link in bio. And you can also check my website, soniaribas.com. And you also have a link to my free masterclass there.
Perfect. I'll make sure all of that is in the show notes. And how we end our episodes here is to ask you just one little piece of fertility advice that you feel called to leave for our listeners today.
I love that. So fertility is not binary. Okay. I have a lot of people who get discouraged. Oh my God, I got my period again and things like that. And I'm going back to square one. It's not square one.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that it's not showing up as a big fat positive just yet does not mean you're not making progress. Fertility is not binary.
Oh, I love that. That's good. And fresh. I always hear the same things. That's a good one. I think that's such an important, again, kind of like limiting belief, right? Of like you're starting over every cycle. And we hear that narrative a lot, but yeah, progress is still being made. I love that, Sonia. Thank you so much for spending
Thank
time and
you.
chatting with me today. And hopefully we can connect again soon.
Absolutely, anytime.